Sorry.
And so the first thing on the agenda tonight is we have any applications for the House Shore Common gazebo or licenses RFP for service.
So we don't have any new applications, although I did want to mention that I had sent a proposal for extending a vendor license into the off season, and that did not make it officially onto the agenda, but conceivably HRA, if they wanted to at least discuss it, maybe not take a vote on it, to talk about Karen LaFawn's proposal to continue the operation of Respiro Sauna um, into the off season. So that's the only new. It's not an application, but it is a proposal related to use of HRA property.
All right, so I think it's something that we should talk about tonight, and then we can put it on the agenda for further discussion. But I think there's a couple of things we have to iron out. We put out an RFP beginning of the season, and it was a RFP for the lease of the vendor space. The vendor season runs through, I believe, end of October. And so for us to move forward with extending the season, I think we need to talk to council and find out what our rights are, what our obligations are, whether it's something that we'd have to put out for a rebid, or is it something where we can extend the season at the same price per month or something like that. But I think we need to get some legal clarification about what the next steps would be. And so I think before we put it on the agenda, I think we need to get some clarification on that. So I would hope, Mark, maybe you could reach out to our attorneys and get us some guidance on that.
I will be glad to, with HRA's consent, I'll reach out to council and get a clarification on what the requirements might be. So I'm happy to do that, and then to put it on the agenda for next meeting so that there could be a discussion and a vote. And I don't know whether anybody, based on the proposal that Karen LaFond sent, Karen LaFond is here, if any member of HRA wants to ask questions or get further details. Um, uh, but we can get council clarification. But this might be an opportunity, independent of taking a vote on it and working out the process, to just get further information or clarification related to the proposal that Karen has put forward. So if HRA members have questions, I think this might be a good opportunity since she's here at the meeting.
Yep. Dan, go ahead. You got your hand up.
Yeah, I think well, I like the idea that we extend the season. I mean, the whole goal that we've been talking about for quite some time now is figuring out ways that we could utilize the HRA property to extend the season. So but that said, we have no policy. So we start with legal guidelines and we need to write something up. This is the first person that's ever wanted to do this, and we would hope that maybe somebody else wants I don't know, something else that would work out of the season. I mean, Asana is like perfect match. I don't know what else might work to extend the season like that, but we should have a policy so that if somebody did want to, I mean, to fill up, we got 8 spots. I mean, it's just, so I don't either we're going to allow this sort of thing or we're not. But I mean, we should really consider what it means to allow this sort of thing. It wouldn't matter if it's a food truck that, serves warm soup in the winter. I don't know. We should decide how we want to handle it is all I was thinking. And it's nice to have a reason to figure this out. That's it.
Thanks, Dan. Ann, go ahead. You got your hand up.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, and I think Bart, what you're suggesting makes sense as far as a process of whether we can just extend it to the same vendor or whether we have to rebid it. I do understand that's a question. I also had a question on whether this really involves our vendor extension, or does this also involve a licensing agreement with the town? And I don't know who would have the answer to that. And if Ms. LaFong is present, I'd be happy to hear from her. I would also ask her whether she planned any other changes as far as like the hours or days that she'd be open or anything else? Because that just wasn't clear in the write-up.
Yes.
Roberta, mute yourself. Is-
So, you think it's the powerful and deadly for
Carrie Murphy, can you mute yourself? Thank you.
Conklin Holdings and leaving a trail of destruction.
Can you mute?
Me, the doctor, give me here, what to do?
Mark, can you mute everybody and then open up the board?
Sure. Yeah, I'm trying to mute
Quiet. And all the questions, and we want you to watch.
sorry, I'm trying to mute
I
for some
muted him.
reason.
Maybe I can do it.
Okay.
You made me the host. I guess I'll do it. All right. All right. So the question was for Karen. I'm gonna unmute Karen if she wants to answer that.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead, Karen.
Perfect. A couple things I appreciate that this is even up for consideration. It's been a pretty eye-opening season, and you have some really good questions about hours and operations and what does that look like for Respiro Sauna Company. As we move into the season, I kind of prefaced it as more of a proof of concept and how will this work? How will this hot sauna work in the middle of summer? Knowing that I do look at it as a business, but also a revenue generator for the town as an experience driver. So repeat people coming over and over. In the last couple of months, I've been wildly successful. However, it might not look like it because most of my clients come at 5 o'clock in the morning. So 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. By 9:30, we're kind of wrapping up because it gets, as you guys know, hot. And so I'm very thankful and grateful that I started off slow, but found a really good following of people in the community that were grateful that they didn't have to travel to Hanover YMCA to get into a sauna, or that they could stop in for a 20-minute sauna and go home and not really leave town. So I think I'm really gaining, I know I'm gaining traction with a lot of the people here in the community, not only the people that I know that I knew were interested already, but really have changed how I do business, because I thought I was opening up a sauna, but it turns out I'm really just building community first, and then the sauna is second. So with that, I'm the only one running the operation, because I think it's really important when you build community. Not only do I have a consistent location where people know where to find me and ask questions and see it on repeat in and out of town when they drive in or out or visit. And I think it's important to realize that even though community is the driver, I'm still running a business. So my hours were primarily in the morning, and I'm open up every single day, Monday through Sunday. I haven't missed a day since the beginning of the season. However, I do add hours in the evening based on a request. If somebody reaches out on the sandwich board that I have and they would like to come on a Tuesday evening, even though I'm not technically here, I'm more than happy to drive from my home, light the sauna up for them, and give them the experience just as if they were in the early morning crew. So they get the same exact experience. Knowing that the business has been able to generate revenue or be profitable or successful. Success comes in a variety of fashions, not just financially, but building community, new friendships, and a multitude of other areas that you don't see on a piece of paper. This is priming the pump to get into season, which then I will have greater hours because it will be cooler weather. So I'll be able to open up absolutely in the morning, but of course the sun rises a little bit later.
Yeah.
So you'll
Karen,
see me. Yeah.
If I may, I get the concept, and I think the board gets the concept.
Okay.
I think that Ann had a question for you about licensing. I know the Board of Health, Building and Fire looked at it I don't know if there's any further licensing. I believe the licensing would be through 2026. But Ann had a
Perfect.
couple of questions, and I don't know if I covered your questions, Ann.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, I am sort of like Dan. I think this is what we want. We want to see the parcel being used, and if we can have somebody using it in the off season, I'm supportive of that. I do think we need to figure out the legal issue as far as just an extension of the contract versus a rebidding. And is this something going forward we might have to think about if she's looking to do it again next year? She's asking for an extension through the end of this year, but in asking the legal, is there some way we could extend it for next season without having to do a rebidding, or in next seasons, make it a year-round time frame? Just to sort of consolidate and save the aggravation of doing this again next year.
Joan, go ahead.
No, I think it's great, because we do want to see the land being used, not just during the summer, but off season. But I know Mark will be reaching out to our attorney. And my first thought is, we may need to put an RFP together and open it up, for other people as well, and see what we come up with. And maybe,
You got a few
Sorry.
people we got to mute.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute these folks.
can everybody put themselves on mute?
Could everyone who's not speaking mute themselves, please?
And maybe next year, just think about when we do the RFP for concessions, we may want to split the season or see if people want to do just seasonal or all year. So, I mean, it leaves us many options. Nobody has approached us before to utilize the land. So I think it's great. And I look forward to hearing from Mark after he speaks to our council.
Ann, you still have your hand up?
Yeah, I had one other comment. So I do think I am supportive once we know how to go about it. I also do think we need to include in that discussion, the costs and what benefit it is to the HRA's our fiscal responsibility, because we can't just let it go for free. There'd have to be some agreement on the lease terms.
And just to follow up, Mark, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just very quickly, and I'll run all of this through council to get more definitive answers. Definitely sort of thinking about what the cost will be. I think from a legal standpoint, extension of a license is different from creating a brand new license where there's an RFP requirement for people who are sort of making a bid for the first time. An extension, there might be a different set of criteria. And then in terms of the fee charged, that might be a sort of prorated version of whatever the bid was in the first place. In terms of either the minimum bid or in terms of the actual bid that was made. And Anne, I'm really glad that you raised this issue, because the other queries that I've received from some of the vendors this season and people who had non-responsive bids or didn't submit a bid this time around was wondering whether HRA might want to contemplate the possibility of granting licenses in a multi-year sort of way, because I think a lot of vendors are interested in like a certain amount of consistency year to year. So that's just something that could be an agenda item for the next time as well. And I'll talk to council about how that would work from the standpoint of the RFP process to do a kind of multi-year, multi-season kind of arrangement. But for the folks who are vendors year in and year out, If they know that they're likely to have a spot over multiple years, it may increase their confidence and the likelihood of making a bigger bid and so on. So it's just something for HRA to think about in terms of the advantages and disadvantages. Thinking about year round, in addition to, say, a sauna during the winter, ice skating or, hot chocolate or, yeah, I mean, there were, winter festivals. There are possibilities for seasons other than the summer season. So it's worth HRA kind of thinking about what the policies might be and then developing a set of guidelines.
All right. In that vein, I think if we can get the answers about how to extend it or if we have to put out an RFP, then it triggers another conversation about rate.
Oops.
You hear any of that?
No.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you were muted. Sorry.
All right. All right. So I think we need to get the answers from council about possible extension of the season or if it's something that we have to put back out for a bid.
Yes.
And then the flip side of it is there's other ramifications that we have to look at. This would take something that's a temporary use to a more of a year-round use, and that would get into zoning and or building code. So those are some of the things I'll do a little bit more digging on while you're getting the answers to the other one, and we'll try to get it on the agenda for either the next meeting or the meeting after, where we can have a more robust conversation how to move forward, even if it's moving forward temporarily for now, and then looking at identifying and clarifying what the zoning allows and what the building code would allow for more permanent in nature uses, because there's other ramifications to what we do. Right now, it's been a seasonal operation, temporary structures, and it's been one of those deals where it's considered temporary, so we don't have to go through conservation, you don't have to anchor everything, those type of things. So it brings on a bigger conversation, but if this is a straight up 3-month extension or something like that, maybe it's something we can work on now, and then we can look at the bigger picture as we move forward. So that's just food for thought for the board. I think we got to consider all the ramifications of it. All right. Any other comments or questions?
And then I have one last thing Anne, you asked one question about if I was going to change anything on the site. If I needed to do that, I would look to you for guidance as to when I would submit those changes. Do you want me to wait till it's approved and then move forward with what I would want to add on or take away?
Yeah, I think we need to get the guidance on what we can do. And
Okay.
then if you're thinking about what you want to do, once we have the guidance and we tell you what the steps are, then you can tell
Yeah.
us what the changes are at that point and
Okay,
how we
great.
go about it. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
and
Karen.
girls.
All right. The next thing on the agenda, we had a request by the 250th Committee to allow parking on Lot B on August 14th for the fireworks with a rain date of August 15th for the fireworks display. They're figuring that there may be a large crowd for the fireworks, and they were looking to use Lot B, the main lot, for parking. I don't know if there's anybody here from the 250th Committee that would like to speak. I think.
Hey, Bob. John
Oh,
Riley.
hi, John Riley. Go ahead, John. Identify yourself, please, and then go ahead.
John Riley, I'm the chairman of the 250th Committee. The HRA received a letter from the Vice Chair, Larry West, requesting the use of Lot B for parking. And, well, there's going to be a need for parking, and it's going to be, we're trying to keep the traffic flow safe and a place for people to go. So we are requesting the use of Lot B for event staff and whoever else might be coming to see the fireworks.
So that's basically the gist of it. They're looking to use Lot B. From my standpoint, I don't see a problem with allowing the use of Lot B as long as the 250th Committee is going to be responsible for policing it, cleaning it up, and, maintaining it. And also, as far as the insurance is required, what we required for the fireworks, we wanted to cover Lot B as well. But I don't know if Dan has his hand up. Go ahead, Dan.
Are they going to be charging for this, or is it just available and they're going to be maintaining it? In other words, they're going to operate it, but are they going to operate it at a to raise money for the next 250th or the 300th?
They're not licensed to charge for it.
Okay,
I
so there
mean,
would be no charge,
we
but
have no plans to charge for it. We will be staffing it, the hull boosters, and I know the boosters, I think the hype has offered some volunteers. Sometimes the people overlap in the two groups. We would probably have them out with buckets if people want to make a voluntary donation. But we also would have signage trying to encourage people with parking stickers to go there. That would free up space in the vendor lots, um, that they could charge people from out of town to park there, because I do know that the HRA board did extend the hours for those two vendors.
yeah.
Ann, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that Lot B be for event staff and residents only. Thinking that would take some of the burden off of the residents taking up the parking in the paid lots and give more opportunity to the vendors there to have fee, people paying for the parking. So I'd be more inclined to approve it if it was for event staff and residents only in Lot B.
We can work that out, and like I said, we'll have some volunteers there. If a police detail is needed, we'll secure a detail. But we'll have signage saying that the parking is for Hull residents with stickers.
Dan, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I agree with Anne that it's a great idea if it's for event staff and whole residents. The parking vendors benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, this is a real big deal for the town anyway. And, it's going to be centered right there in the HRA. It's nice if you live down in the village to be able to drive on up here and you stand a better chance of having a parking space if we reserve it for the town. I think we're going to have a huge town turnout for this event. And yeah, I think it's a real nice service to the town if we we kind of protect it for the residents.
That was the thought of the committee, and it is going to be this Friday, the 14th. The rain dated on the 15th. And if you don't mind, I'll take the opportunity to update the HRA board on some events that we plan on doing down there. First of all, I want to thank the HRA once again for their generous donation of $10,000 towards the fireworks. There will be a sign going up stating as such, which I think it might be ready tomorrow. We'll put it up on one of the post and rail signs. We may move it the night of the fireworks to another post and rail sign on the other end of the lot. But we do have a tent coming. It's going to be a 30 by 60 tent. We have a band coming. They'll be on a stage. We have a beer truck. We have food trucks. We have a virtual golf simulator. We have lawn games.
Wow.
It's going to be quite, I think it kind of reflects the vision that the HRA board has for that space. And I hope the community will take advantage of it and just see what a great space it could be. We will, as I mentioned, try to have some voluntary donations that we would put into a fund to hopefully carry fireworks off into future years, partnering with the boosters, the Haifa, the carnival, et cetera, and try to keep that fund going. And we'll see what happens. I don't know how much we'll have left in the fund after we're done. Most of the things we've done have been self-sufficient. We are spending money on the parade and field day, but the other things such as the harbor cruises, the flags, we sold out of the flags. We still have buttons available, but pretty much everything is being self-sufficient and actually adding some money into the fund.
That's great. Thank you, John. Mark, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Barley, and thanks to John Riley and Ann for that suggestion. The operators of Lot A and Lot C expressed concern about losing parking revenue and the fact that it would be the residents with town stickers who would be parking for free actually is a win-win situation that is of benefit to Lot A and Lot C. So that's a really terrific idea to make sure that the signage and the management of the parking makes that clear for staff and town residents, and that people from out of town will have other parking options available to them. So I think that's really good. So one question I wanted to ask HRA is that typically when um, Lot B has been used for special events, there is a charge that is either discounted or waived, and I don't know whether HRA wants to make a decision about that and whether the organizers need to submit some sort of basic parking plan, um, just so that there's accountability in terms of uh, the way that parking will be handled on Lot B for this event later in the week. So those are just things that HRA should think about because that's been the process for the carnivals and other sorts of events that take place on HRA property. So probably there needs to be some decision about discounting or waiving those charges or waiving the requirement for submission of a plan.
Thank you, Mark. And you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm in favor of waiving the fee. You know, it is really a community event, and it's our way of celebrating the 250th. A lot of people were like, well, why isn't Hull doing something on July 4th? Well, personally, I was glad they didn't because there's too many other things going on elsewhere. So I think we're fortunate that it got delayed and now we can hopefully all really enjoy it. I did have a couple quick questions for John. John, what time does the beer garden and the music and all that start?
We have everything starting at 5 p.m. The
Okay.
beer garden, etc. The fireworks will go off at approximately 9 p.m.
And I'll just mention that the band is assisted living, which for people around the town know that's David Kellum's band. And I like to kid him that David Kellum was the first one of us to go into assisted living. So he always has a good draw. So hopefully people come out and see him. Um, and I was going to just suggest, John, you might even want to, assuming we're approving this, you might even want to get the word out to tell residents to go, to plan on parking in Lot B so that it would free up more spaces in Lot A for out-of-towners.
We've been doing a lot of social media posting. I think you've probably seen Laurie post a lot.
Yeah.
And she is also posting on the Hingham and Cohasset Facebook pages. And the key is, like you said, to get the word out beforehand and to have signage before they get down to the far lot. I believe it's Lot A, to turn in there before they get down and have to loop around again. We're just trying to minimize the traffic or any congestion that may come. And hopefully people will come dispersed between, 4:30 to 6 o'clock or whenever. So there's not really a congestion getting in there. I haven't heard David's band before, but I've heard all good reports. I'm looking forward to hearing him. He's looking forward to playing before his hometown down on Celebration. And you mentioned about not having the fireworks around the 4th. That was one of the first decisions the 250th committee made. And
Yeah, I'm upstairs.
And partly was financial because everybody else wanted to do it on the 4th of July, and the price would have been double. Instead, we pushed it off. Instead of having like a 15-minute show, we're gonna have a half-hour show. So we're getting more, pardon the pun, bang for the buck. But it's gonna be a very good show. I think it's something we'll be proud of. And traditionally, around this time in August is Hull Gala Days. So we have the parade following the next day, and Field Day the next day on the 15th. So it should be a big weekend for the town.
Thank you, John. Dan, you've got your hand up. Go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah, so with the additional parking, do they have to coordinate with the police? And because now there'll be more parking there. So kind of in line with the same thing with the parking plan, clearly they want to put together a plan because they're going to have people directing, volunteers directing where to park people. So I think that in the sense of just for their own success, there needs to be a police plan and a parking plan. So, but I'm totally support waiving the fee. And I was just wondering if there is a additional police thing. Are we indirectly volunteering to cover the cost? Um,
I can address those. We've been keeping both the chiefs and anybody on the town staff apprised of what the committee is planning. I believe there's a public safety meeting coming up with the police, fire, DPW, et cetera, to review that. And I don't want to speak for the police chief at all, but I would think that having the cars being able to pull in off the road would be a lot safer than having cars queued up trying to look for parking or whatever. So as far as if the police chief wants us to have a detail, the 250th committee will pay for a police detail. Something else that we're doing, because when the carnival was there originally, they had some exterior lighting. We are in the works of renting a couple of construction lighting devices to light up that parking lot, to be a little safer transgression through the parking lot over to the where we're having the function. And we'll be happy to submit a parking plan. It's pretty basic. We're just going to go in parallel rows up and down the field till it's filled, or if it does fill.
Great.
Thank you, John. So, Laurie West, are you here? I think you wanted to speak. No, I don't see her here, so. All right.
I don't think she was going to be able to make it this evening.
Okay, all right. I'm going to make a motion and see if I can wrap it all in. I'll make a motion to approve the Hull 250th Committee to use Lot B for resident parking and staff parking for the event on the Hull Shore Commons for August 14th, the rain date of August 15th, with the provision that they will staff the lot and they will clean up after the show on both lots. And if there's added police details, that they would be covered by the 250th Committee. So that's my motion. Is there a second? Second by Ann for discussion. Mark's got his hand up. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Bartley. I was wondering, and HRA members can decide this, whether to include in the motion that there needs to be signage indicating that Lot B parking is for residents with stickers only, and that there be a submission of a basic parking plan in the next couple of days, and that the staff who manages the parking in Lot B will be able to direct non-residents to the other parking options.
So I'll add those to my motion.
And I'll second that amendment.
And I'll add to waive the fee as well and the application. Is there a second to that?
Second.
All right. So a motion's been made and seconded, the amended motion with the added provisions. Any further discussion from board members?
No.
All right. All those in favor by roll call vote. Aye, Bartley Kelly.
Aye, Dan Kernan.
Aye, Joan Senator.
Aye, Charlie Richardson.
Aye, Anne Murray.
All right, unanimous. I want to thank John and the 250th Committee for all the work you've done. I wish you nothing but success. Hopefully I'll see you there this weekend.
Just one more update before I go, and hopefully you won't have a problem with it, or you might need a motion for it. But we spoke with the tent supplier and the golf simulator. They want to set up on Thursday. They said they like to do it a day before in case there's any issues. The tent supplier is the same one that did the light department rodeo. So she's familiar with the property. Basically, it's just going to be on the other side of the fence of where she set it up last time. But that's the only wrinkle that came up in the last day or two, is that they wanted to get in there a day early and set those two things up.
I don't know if there's any concerns from board members about early setup.
No.
So I don't think it'll be a problem. It actually gives us time to get the inspections done on it, so I think we're good there.
Okay, so they're going to be down on Thursday, and I think Pat Cannon said he would probably run the power line on Thursday also.
All right.
Just in preparation for Friday.
All right, great. Good job. Thank you, John.
Thank
I do see Laurie West is here. We've already voted on it and approved it, but Laurie, we're going to let you speak, and then I got Susan Familiar up after that. Go ahead, Laurie. You're on mute. Still on mute, Laurie. All right, I'm going to go to Susan Familiar. Go ahead, Susan.
Just had to unmute. Susan Vermilia, East Street. I just wanted to ask about insurance. Is that all squared away for this weekend with the 250th and adding the parking lot and the band and all of that? I assume that's all squared away in terms of insurance.
Yep, they're required to provide the insurance and include the parking area as part of it. And actually, their insurance provider is our insurance provider, so they're aware of the situation.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Laurie West, you still have your hand up. If you want to speak, try to unmute. I think we lost you. All right. So we're settled on the use of the Lot B. Next up on the meeting agenda is the meeting minutes from the last couple of meetings.
All right, yeah, I sent everybody the July 13th regular meeting, then also the executive session meeting and the July 27th meeting. So you had them and they need to be discussed and voted on.
The executive session minutes we will not be discussing in open session. We can take a motion to approve them, but they will remain executive session.
Charlie, it's Ann. I sent an amendment to how the motion is made. Did you pick that up on the final version?
I did not put on the final version because I can't personally change what was
Okay, it
what
wasn't,
was motioned. That's something that needs to be, as we go into executive session, needs to be done prior to.
okay. Going forward, we need to remember to do that.
Yeah.
I will approve make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of July 13th, 26, with the minutes to remain confidential until the need has passed.
Motion was made by Ann Murray to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joan Senator. All those in favor of approving the executive session meetings of July 13th, 2026 by roll call vote, please signify by saying aye. Aye, Bartley Kelly.
Hi, Dan Kernan.
I, Joan Senator.
Hi, Charlie Richardson.
I, Ann Murray.
All right, unanimous vote. Thank you. Next up, we have the meeting minutes for July 13th, the regular meeting. Everybody get a chance to look at those?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 13th minutes as presented.
All right, motion made by Ann Murray to approve the minutes of July 13th, 2026. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joan Senator. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye in a roll call vote. Aye, Bartley Kelly.
Hi, Dan Kernan.
I, Joan Senator.
Hi, Charlie Richardson.
I, Ann Murray.
All right, it's unanimous vote. Thank you.
Mm.
All right, we've got the meeting minutes for July 27th, 2026. Everybody get a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Any amendments or changes?
Mhm.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 27th, 2026. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Joan Senator. All those in favor by roll call vote, please signify by saying aye. Aye, Bartley Kelly.
Hi, Dan Kernan.
I, Joan Senator.
Hi, Charlie Richardson.
I, Ann Murray.
All right. Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank
All right,
you,
next up.
Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you,
Next up,
Charlie.
we've got a warrant, I believe.
Yes, there is a warrant for tonight. First item, Pierce Atwood for the legal services for the month of June, $1,881. Next, police details. First one, for July 1 through July 11th, it's $6,632.28. The next one, police details to the town of Hull. It's for July 12th through July 25th in the amount of $6,141. Next is for Mark Hammond for July services, $2,452.50. And the last one is for Catherine Goldhammer for the website administrative services for the month of June and July. It's $506.25. The total warrant is $17,613.03.
Any questions on the
I'll-
warrant from board members? I'll make a motion to approve the warrant as presented. For a second,
Second,
seconded by Anne
second
Murray.
by Murray.
All those in favor by roll call vote. I, Bartley Kelly.
I, Dan Kernan.
Hi, Joan Senator.
I, Charlie Richardson.
I, Anne Murray.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I know we talked about police details, I think at the last meeting. This brings us, including tonight's warrant, we've paid $25,000 for police details, starting in mid-May through now July 25th.
Thank you. And just, I know there was correspondence asking about what the HRA had for funds, and it's on the warrant, so I'm going to read it aloud.
Do you want to read it or? Okay.
I can read it or you can read it, either or.
Oh, I can, the checkbook balance, operating account is $205,253.58. That is not inclusive of the invoices for this warrant. We have CDs. We have a money mutual account, 22,000. I'm just going to round it off, 22,000. We have a CD, $420,772. And the other CD, we have $1,581,229. So in total, we have approximately about $2 million in CDs. And of course, our operating account, as you know, we're incurring expenses, and we're very lucky to have the money from the parking lot. And just also to update people, we have received all the money from the two vendors who leased out Lot A and Lot C. So everything has been paid.
Thank you, Joan. And I added those up real quickly just to give a grand total. So we get a total, including all accounts, of $2,229,284.95. So that's the funds on hand that the HRA has. I know that was a question that came forward, and it's not posted on our website. And I know we're working on the annual report, so that would have
the update on annual report. The 2023 was not done. We didn't have a treasurer in between. I pulled the information together, and the accountant is working on it. The board we did receive the 2025, and I circulated to the board. I have not received anybody reach out any questions. It's pretty basic. It's the same compilation of the financial statement that's been going on for years. But if the board doesn't have any issues or any concerns or questions, I can ask Catherine Goldhammer to have it posted on the website if there's no objection from the board.
I don't see any objections for the board. I think we should post it so people know what we've got going on.
Okay.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels. Do we want a motion for that effect?
I don't think go ahead.
I'll make a motion to post the 2025 financial report onto the HRA 02045 website. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Joan Senator. All those in favor by roll call vote. I, Bartley Kelly.
I, Dan Kernan.
I, Joan Senator.
I, Charlie Richardson.
I, Anne Murray.
All right, unanimous vote. So those will be
Oh.
posted up on the website pretty soon.
Okay, I'll send it to Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you,
Anything
Chairman.
else from the board on the treasurer?
Any other questions for Joan about the warrant?
Bartley, was that the motion was that to post the financials for, was it 2025? I'm sorry.
Yes.
2025, correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The next thing we have on the agenda was a continuation of the board member discussion relative to direction and next steps related to potential parcel uses. And I know last time we talked about having maps available, so if I could share my screen.
Yes, can you just do the screen share? I think you're able to.
All right.
Let me know if you're not able to.
Okay, let me just pull up what I've got here.
And I just made you the host, so you should have no problem sharing.
Okay. Mhm. All right, so this is the tech map, and I've got other maps as well, but this has the lots laid out with the two-way road configuration. And it has lots 1 is Phipps Street, lot 2, 3, and 4 is a combined main lot, including Water Street. Lot 2A is the beach parcel. Lot 5 is the parcel that runs adjacent to Cumberland Farms up to Whitehead Ave. Actually, that's lot 9, excuse me. Lot 5 is the hotel parking lot at the corner of Bay Street. Lot 6A is where the gazebo is.
Excuse me, Bartley?
Yep.
Can you enlarge that?
Let me see.
Bottom right.
Bottom right.
Yeah, do you see the bottom right-hand part of your screen there? In the margin, there's
The magnifying glass?
the plus and the minus at the lower right hand of the screen. And you can just hit the icon that says plus.
Yeah, I don't have that on mine. Let me see.
I think you could also do control plus.
Control plus.
Excuse me, whoever's on the iPhone, would you mute, please?
I'm trying to mute this person.
All right, there we go. Is that better?
Yeah, a little
Yes.
more if you can. That's better.
All right, so just explaining the lots again. Lot 1 would be Fifth Street at the left-hand corner. Lot 2 is the main parcel. Lot 3 is the main parcel. Lot 4 is part of the main parcel going down to Water Street. Lot 5 is at the corner of Bay Street. Lot 6A is where the gazebo is on the bay side. Lot 6 is the main middle parcel of the bay side. Lot 7 is the parcel with the fence around it going towards the light plant. Lot 8 is the parcel between Edgewater Road and Whitehead Ave. And parcel 9 is the parcel that runs along Nantasket Ave in front of the new house on the corner of Whitehead, headed towards Cumberland Farms. So last week we were talking about potential uses and where we go from here. So I know there was a pretty good discussion about potential use for Lot 1 last week. I don't know if anybody on the board would like to start off. And I gotta see. I'm just trying to configure my screen so I can see and see who's up there. All right, so I mean, I'll start off if nobody else wants to. I think all of us are in agreement that the main parcels 2 and 3 on this map, and probably at least a portion of parcel 4, should remain as open space to act as a common area for the town and to be kept as open space, improved open space, hopefully that's acts as event space, gathering space, place to have a carnival, other types of events, and it would act as a gateway to connect the main parcel, the beach, and the bayside parcels. So I'm just throwing that out there as that's, I think, something that we kind of all agree on in principle. So, Dan, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, we should, I know that this is difficult for some of you, but we really should also, realize there's some hidden lines there. And the DCR has not approved the two-way road plan. So you kind of you see the demarcation there in the middle of lot 4. And there is no road here in the middle. This it's not approved, so there's not necessarily a road right between the the DCR lot and the parcel 2. So there's some things here that are assuming that the DCR is going to approve this map we're seeing here. I believe there's going to be a meeting here where they're going to be presenting kind of their thinking. Maybe we should attend that. I was going to suggest that maybe we should ask them to present to us, but if they're going to be presenting to the citizens or the town or something, I'm under the impression that something is being planned. But yeah, so here's the way it is today.
Can you see this other screen I have up there?
Yep.
All right, so that's the way it is today. So if you're looking at the way it is today, the lots under discussion will be Lot A, the Fifth Street lot, the main lot, where it shows as main area B, the majority portion of that as park space. Then lot area C is the Water Street parcel, depending on what happens with the two-way roads. And then we have the Bayside parcel. It does not show the other parcels along Nantasket Ave going back towards Cumberland Farms and Whitehead Ave. Right? See if I can get that centered. Is that better for people?
Mm.
All right, Dan, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, Anne had hers up first.
Okay. All right, Ian, go ahead.
Um, I don't disagree with what you just said as far as the parcels being looked at for open space, but I'm still having a hard time with the whole concept of trying to figure this out parcel by parcel. I personally, I have no planning experience, and I personally think that we should hire a firm that is, has had experience in public planning and laying out public spaces and give them just a general overview of what we're looking at, that we're looking for, open space that will maintain, be environmentally sensitive, and also, allow part of that open space to be for public use and community use for events and gatherings and whatnot, and then have them design and lay out, what should go where. They're much more experienced than I think anyone on this board is. And come back with a couple of options, and direct them to some of the public plans that were proposed to get, a variation of ideas of things that people put forth, and to design something from that. I just don't see where you or I or any of us know the flow of foot traffic, that kind of thing. I'd rather have, a professional designer lay it out. And maybe with a couple of different options of, well, this could go in parcel, whatever, this could, or we could switch it out, with like Lego pieces, and okay, if you don't want that there, here's another option for that parcel. Because I think otherwise we're going to go around in circles.
I don't disagree with you about getting a consultant involved for the design aspects of it. But I think before we can get to that point, we as a board have to identify what areas are definitely going to be park spaces and what areas may be in play for some sort of development. I think that's where we're at right now, is trying to identify what the areas are that, that we agree would be park space, and what areas are potentials for development, and see where that discussion leads. And then once we get to that point, I think that's when we bring the professionals on for design consultations for the park space and that type of stuff. And depending on what happens with the other parcels, then we look at what the next steps are for them. That's my personal opinion, but I can't speak for other members of the board. I think if we bring a designer in and try to hire a designer to come in and say, we have this blank space. I know some members of the board think that it all should be open space, 100% open space, none of it should be developed. Other members of the board think some of the areas should be developed. There should be some parcels that are left for development. So I think as a board, we've got to come to some sort of consensus on whether there's going to be any development or whether there's going to be zero development and it's going to be all park space before we bring a consultant on and start spending money on design.
Well, I personally feel the community has spoken and that they do not want development there, and they really want to see it as open space, community space. So I am not for housing. And, Charlie, the last meeting talked about putting housing on that Lot A, Phipps Street lot. And again, I said, okay, and where are you going to put parking? Because you still are going to need parking for residents. And I'm more concerned with residents versus out of towners, but for both, but especially for residents who go, that's where they go to the beach. And, if it's going to be a public park, you're still going to need parking for people who want to go to an event on that public parcel. And last time I brought it up, I got no answer other than, it's not really a problem except a couple months in the summer. Well, tell me something I don't know. But the fact is, if more is happening there, and maybe in the shoulder seasons too, you're still going to need parking. So Bart and Charlie, especially you guys have mentioned housing on Phipps Street. If you take that lot away, where are you putting the parking?
So, I mean, the parking discussion has been going around for years and years down here. We're not a parking authority. We do provide parking on the beach. It's been provided because the redevelopment authority has not developed the property. We have to provide parking for whatever development we have there, and if we have a park space, 9 months out of the year, there's plenty of parking around there. Even the other 3 months a year, 80% of the time, there's plenty of parking down there. There's only been 4 days this year so far. One of them was this past weekend, where Lot B would have been utilized for parking. And so if we have the park space, we can always use it as overflow parking if we design it right. And depending on what we do there, we can move parking around. We have land, total land area about 13 acres. Lot A is 2 acres. So it's about trying to find that happy medium, because to have the park space, we need to have funds to build it out, or we be able to pursue funds to build it out. And I still feel personally, as an elected member of this board, that we have a mission that brings some sort of development, that brings some sort of economic development to the town. And right now, the highest and best use is housing. That being said, I don't think anybody in town, I've heard it loud and clear, they don't want to have an overwhelming large condo project on here. They don't want to have 100% of the property used as housing development. But I've heard it over the years, and I know the elections have been held, and to me, that's the best survey is the elections, based on people's perspectives. And so I think we got to come to a compromise here of something. And if you put a neighborhood back in the neighborhood, you put single-family houses back in the neighborhood, it puts funds on the table for the HRA to do the other things that we want to do, and we can get this project to the point where there's money on the table. We've created some funding, we've created some tax revenue, and we've put the balls in the place to do the park space and be able to improve it. So, I mean, that's my personal view as an HRA member, as an elected HRA member. And we're going to agree that we disagree. I know, Ann, that you disagree with me. Dan, you disagree with me. And so this is what we're trying to hammer out.
Well, I still would like you to answer if that's going to be a public space for public use, community use, whatever event, fireworks, a circus, a carnival, a bonfire, whatever. You're still going to have people who want to go there, and they're going to have to park somewhere in the summer, Bart. I'm not talking about the winter. I'm talking about in the summer. So where are you going to put that parking?
It's not our job to provide summer beach parking. It's our job to redevelop the property. We're a redevelopment authority.
We're not providing.
If summer beach parking is part of that parcel, let's talk about it. There's parcels. We've got the parcel on the corner of Whitehead Ave. You could expand the parking there. We've got the parking at Water Street. We talked about making parking for residents only. And,
Bart, can other people speak?
Yeah, and just ask me a question. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, so if the board wants to put housing on there, you can make that decision by voting for it. But going parcel by parcel, before we know what's going on, to assume what the DCR is going to do, to assume that that parking lot can't be changed. There's a discussion with the town of taking over the DCR parking and making a trade or something. There's a lot of things in the air right now. This plan versus the two-way road version of it changes a lot. We're not showing those other two small parcels because they don't really, you can't build on them unless you move the road. They're too small. There's so many things changing. A high-level view, if you want to fight for housing, fight for housing. You don't need to go parcel by parcel. When you go parcel by parcel, you're limiting what a designer can come up with. They could work with the DCR, decide that the best thing for the DCR, if they want to move their bathhouse, is to change the shape of their parking lot that's paved and move it along the main road and not have it up against the beachfront. If they really are going down to one lane, right, because they want to go and put the dune design around their bathhouse, right? You don't even have a road there that you can drive on, let alone need a cross street, which is in the two-way road plan. There is a lot up in the air. But those things about lot by lot don't matter. We need a high-level vision. If you're going to say we got 13 acres and you want to have some housing on it, then we figure out we tell the designer we'd like some housing on it. He'll probably put it on Fib Street, but he might be able to work with the DCR and put it on Fib Street in a way that it would look better, right? Versus saying Fib Street's going to be shaped like this. We're not going to work with DCR. We're not going to talk to our neighbors. We're going to decide and tell the designer to design something based on some assumption that I think none of us necessarily need to make or will come up with the best answer. So we're getting the cart before the horse to go and say, okay, we're going to take lot A and we're going to put housing on it. I obviously, Bart, I don't want to put housing on it. I'm going to vote no on housing on it. I'm going to vote no on putting housing anywhere. But we still, whether I'm outvoted or not, we should do that after we go and say that what we in general want is a particular sort of thing, and then go to someone skilled at urban gathering places and some essentially doing what typical redevelopment authorities do all over the United States is some sort of mixed use. Some of them are complete parks. Some of them are mixed where there's a small piece that's a park. Some of them just have open spaces, a big patio in front of a concert. The Nubian Center is an entire music center with short-term housing for artists. I mean, redevelopment authorities can be all kinds of things. How it gets designed is a separate task. We're doing it in the wrong order.
I disagree.
Well, I don't. You're the chair, but you're not a designer.
I didn't say it was, but I go back to the fact that this board's got to make some decisions on direction before we hire a consultant to come in and tell us where and how to put things.
But direction doesn't say that, okay, I want it on this space. The space is going to change whether we say it or not. And
I think
a firm that is established in this state that would pass our requirements would know how to work with the DCR, find out what they're doing, what most likely is in their master plan, and how to react to it. And, to go and assume we're not going to go and talk to them, we're right in the middle of Nantasket Beach Reservation. To ignore that is very unwise.
so. If I can respond, we're not ignoring it. The DCR, we were waiting for their response to the two-way roads from the town of Hull. And so they sat in their hands for a year and a half and didn't come back with a response. Then they come back with their climate resiliency plan, making Hull their test case. And they've got this 60,000-foot view of Nantasket Beach of what they'd like to do for climate resiliency. And they floated that, but they're still looking for what the town wants to do. The town secured $1.4 million in grant monies to do design work on the two-way roads. And I think the two-way roads can dovetail very nicely with what the DCR wants to do. It's getting everybody at the table together. We can't be sending mixed messages, but the HRA owns their land, our land. We own that land. And what we want to do with that land as a redevelopment authority, that's our decision, as long as it meets the goals and people are okay with it. And so I think we've garnered $1.4 million for design work. It's going to do a lot of the infrastructure work that needs to be done and try to move it forward. And now we're trying to identify, hey, we know we want park space, and we know everybody wants the middle to be park space.
All right, Bart, we can go back and forth. You can't just keep talking forever. We can go back and forth on this.
Dan, I don't interrupt you when you're talking. And we can go back and forth. I'm just
we've heard this. Look,
and I've heard your side too.
Right, but you're leaving out a huge piece here. So I've heard this from you. If in fact you want the two-way road plan and the DCR is going to do what they're going to do, you're assuming they're going to have their road wide and we're going to give up a huge chunk of land on the ocean side. That you're not talking about that. Okay? If you give up a huge chunk of land on the ocean side, it changes the overall design. We need someone who can work with them and find out what they're really up to as we come up with these plans. This thing is changing around. Even if we stick with your two-way road plan, we know that the DCR is going to go and need more land. And if they need more land, that road is moving. The drawing changes.
It only moves if we allow it.
But okay, then there's no road there.
Not necessarily.
Well, all right, not necessarily. And not necessarily is the road there.
But so let's talk about the road.
Why?
DOT's on board with the two-way roads. It solves traffic problems for us. It's safety, better safety for us,
That's
better
not what
safety
the
for the
DCR.
townspeople. And so the design's on there, and the HRA voted in favor of the two-way roads. The town's moving forward with the two-way road plan. The DCR was looking for the input from the town on their plan and how it impacts the two-way road. So yeah, there might be give and take there, but we still have decisions to make as a redevelopment authority. We don't have to give up any land to the DCR. We want to work with them, be a good neighbor, help out, and create park space and dovetail into it. But we don't want to hand over another 13 acres to the DCR on Nantasket Beach. Right now, they paved it all, and it's a giant parking lot for everybody but the people of Hull, and there's no benefit. The redevelopment authority's got a mission. I happen to have firm beliefs in what I think that mission is. You have firm beliefs in what you think that mission is. And maybe you're right. Maybe we should just be voting. Ian, go ahead.
I would prefer to hear from Mark first.
From who?
Mark.
Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Bartley, and thank you, Ann. So if I may, I think that maybe a way to address some of this impasse and identify some consensus is I think the value of the parcel by parcel analysis is to determine the parcels where there's consensus that HRA does not want intensive development. And I think that's pretty clear in terms of the core areas, that whole vision of, from the beach to the bay, from the ocean to the bay, as being publicly accessible open space. As someone who's done plans for multiple plans over the course of my career, the scope of work for an RFP would be to set out the existing conditions and the results of the survey in terms of preferences within the community, and then to articulate that baseline vision where there's consensus, and then to sort of say the consultant that does the redevelopment plan needs to identify potential resources to fund the improvements and to identify the menu of different sources of revenue, which may include selling some of the parcels for development in order to make possible the creation of that improvement. So what's clear from the survey is that that's not considered the first resort. It's not the most preferred option, but it's also not ruled out as an option if necessary to provide the revenue for the sorts of improvements that HRA wants to see and the community wants to see. So I think if the scope of the RFP is existing conditions on the land, that the plan has to be complementary to the comprehensive plan for the town of Hull, the resiliency plan for DCR, has to adapt to the scenarios of whether the two-way road plan gets approved or doesn't get approved, and sort of lays that out in terms of what's the best use of the land in terms of which land is prime for publicly accessible open space and needs to be protected and preserved, needs to have resilience built into it. And then what are the areas on HRA land that, if need be, would be available for sale to encourage some redevelopment. And then also the scope of work would identify that the plan needs to provide parking for whatever number HRA comes up with. If HRA says there needs to be parking for X number of automobiles to be able to get to the park, access public events, and so on, that can all be built into the scope of the work, and then it's up to the consultant to do the analysis of the land and propose the scenarios for development and how it will get paid for. That's all part of the redevelopment planning process. So I think it's not necessarily, those aren't issues that HRA needs to decide itself in advance. It just needs to have a scope so the consultant knows that they have the latitude to identify what the potential options might be. And then at that point, HRA will need to make a decision that will have to get approved by the town of Hull and so on. So I don't know if that's helpful as thinking about the scope of the project for an RFP.
So I think the existing conditions plan already exists. We've done an existing condition plan, so we don't need to have that as part of the scope. We have the existing conditions. We have a proposed conditions plan with the two-way roads, right? And that's before the DCR. The town has it. Tech's already done that legwork. Those are already defined. I think before we can bring a consultant on, we have to define as a board what we want, instead of having a consultant come in and tell us what they think the options are. We're the elected members of a board, and then we bring the consultant on to draft park plans and talk about doing an RFP. I said, otherwise, we're going to be bringing a consultant in, and they're going to listen to us going back and forth about direction and spinning we're going to be spinning our wheels to them, and they're trying to make heads or tails of which direction to go to. I think we have to make decisions here. That's what we're elected to do. Dan, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
You're muted.
I agree. We should come up with a direction before we decide what we're doing on each parcel. However, if you do go this direction, then as long as we realize that when we put out the RFP to come up with a plan, that they're not shoehorned into this layout. In other words, they are free to suggest that the DCR parking lot change its shape and become a rectangle along the road front, and that the area across from the bathhouse and from the sandy beach dunes has some other purpose. Now, if we choose as a board that we would like some commercial or some residential, but if you lock in right now, Bart, if you lock in residential and you say, that is my only way I want to make money, and a design says, oh, geez, what you have here is an opportunity to have a little beachfront village, and it really should be a light commercial strip or something. You just eliminate that. You eliminate a designer, an architect, somebody who designs spaces like this, and you have decided that you want to do housing because the town makes more money. Okay, I find that not how you run projects. That's not how you design the best thing. I mean, I don't care if I'm designing toys or retail software or a building. You don't do it that way. Now, so I have a difficult time this way, but if you use this as a template to go and say, this is how much of the land roughly I want to dedicate towards housing, and you can see it visually here, but I'm not going to restrict a design team on how they would how they would recommend us achieve our goals. Right? It strikes me as backwards. We should be able to define our direction and our mission and be very clear. But it should be a little bit ambiguous. I don't think we should define the public space as being a soccer field yet. We need to generate revenue in order to afford building a community space. I don't think we should define it as housing yet, or define exactly the shape of the space that is housing yet. It seems way ahead of the design curve. And I just don't think we're qualified. Anyhow, that's my opinion.
Thanks, Dan. Ann, go ahead. You're on mute.
I'm glad I heard from Mark because I think what he said made a lot of sense to me. I think the thing that bothers me, Bart, is that you seem to want to jump to sell and build without even really knowing if there's a necessity to do that. I mean, if we need to accept some housing, I could go there if it really was necessary, but I think you're making big assumptions without having any knowledge of whether that's even necessary. There have been a lot of different public space build outs in, somebody sent us a link tonight. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, about a place in Newburyport. I mean, and there's one in Braintree or Weymouth or somewhere. I think there is opportunity to get funding, and I think we need to explore that. And I think that can be part of what these consultants can do for us, because this is what they do. And, as an option, as Mark suggested, to leave it open to them to say, is this feasible? Here's the amount of money we have. What do you foresee the estimated costs to be? What are possible funding sources? And, is it unrealistic? Do we have to do something as far as selling a parcel, which to me is like the very last extreme thing I would ever consider. And correct me if I'm wrong, Joan, but I think you sort of have voiced the same thing. I think, again, they would be in a better space to tell us, yes, I think we just tell them it's going to be a public space. We feel that there does need to be parking to go with that public space. Can you give us some estimate of what you see as a right-sized public parking? And maybe we say public parking for residents. And do you have any suggestions for alternative parking for, out-of-towners, i.e. like a satellite arrangement that I've suggested at the train stations? I think that they can provide us, flesh out some of the details that we just aren't well versed in. And, I'd like us to really consider putting together an RFP to start the process to do that, to get a professional firm to guide us. And I noticed in the chat, somebody mentioned that, hopefully there'll be a public meeting in the September as far as the two-way road. I think, that was over 10 years ago when it was brought. It was 2015, 2016. And we've heard nothing since. All of the residents have been waiting to hear and waiting to hear and waiting to hear. And certainly over the 10 years, a lot has changed. A lot has changed in Hull as far as the amount of summer residents versus year-round residents. A lot has changed as far as the building that has occurred in Hull. And, I'm also concerned, and all you have to do is open up Facebook and see that other people are concerned about the infrastructure in this town, the water limitations and the electric grid limitations. So I think we need to be cognizant of all those other factors that have come into play over the 60 years. So I don't know, Mark, how we go forward, but I really don't think that I can say, I mean, I'm happy to say, yes, the middle parcel should be open space. I think we can all agree on that. Beyond that, I don't sense that we have much of a concession on anything. And I don't know where you want to put the park or the event space or whatever. That's where I look to a design company. And I think they should look at it holistically, the whole parcel, and not just say, well, no, parcel 2 and 3 need to stay open space. I think they need to look at the overall HRA property, and maybe they'll be thinking outside the box, nothing that any of us have thought of. My 2 cents.
Thank you, Ann. So I don't know if any other board members have a comment or question.
Yeah, this is
Joan,
Joan.
go ahead.
I agree with Mark. I think we have to get someone to come in to evaluate the existing conditions, take the results of the survey, create a visual rendering so we can understand future possibilities. And, and the biggest, thing is develop construction cost. I mean, cost is a big factor. I mean, I did read the article I think somebody sent through the HRA admin account, and it was on the Newbury, was it Newburyport? And it took them 15 years to get there. I don't want to wait 15 years. And I don't think the town wants to wait 15 years. But construction, cost is a issue. I think everybody heard what our financial situation is. 2 million is not going to get us anywhere. But I think we all know what we want. We do want some public enjoyment. We also got to look at where we can put things based upon the coastal conditions. I mean, I don't know. And I think it would be great if we could, get some ideas of what's feasible and what's not feasible. And then think about, if everybody wants to move forward in developing, improving the open space, then we have to consider if we have to sell some of the property that is owned by the HRA to finance it. And until that situation, until we make these decisions, we will have hard decisions to make. So I think, it wouldn't hurt to help somebody guide us, because we can continue going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But I think we all want to do the right thing. I think, we have to get an independent company that's a landscape, a coastal type of person that has that type of experience to help guide us and tell us the options so we can visualize what we can do with it.
Thanks, Joan. Charlie, go ahead.
Thanks, Bart. Joan, well said. And I've spent a fair amount of time listening, and I'm hoping that the words that I say now are not picked apart, but are really listened to, because I think that's the biggest challenge we have. One of the 5 things that I ran on was the last belief system that I said in the newspaper article that I wrote had a lot to do with just working on being transparent, communicating, and collaborating. And I really think that we're a lot closer than people think. So if we can just drown out the noise, I really do think we're close. And I want to start by saying, I keep hearing that the survey, has spoken, the survey has spoken. I really want people to know, I was part of that survey. I was very proud of it. I was psyched to see that 10% of the population filled it out. But at the end of the day, as many people voted for me, and the 5 belief systems that I had, and I need to represent them as well. And I want to remind people of the beliefs that I had. The very first thing I support is I support a community common. I support the community common on the middle parcels. And I think we're there. The second thing I talked about was supporting sustainability, to engage. And I kept hearing about this Wildlands Trust, and Karen Gray, the executive director and president. And I was fortunate enough to meet with her last week, and I was very impressed with her. And one of the takeaways that I want to suggest that after I speak here is to see if we can invite her to our next meeting. I asked if she'd be willing to come and speak and help us out. She's a pro. She's done some great work. I know a lot of community members in town know of her. I got her to commit, if you folks agree, on August 31st to come in person at 7:30 to the town hall. So I just want you to know that I'm representing another part of the town. I guess that may not be on Facebook all the time, but people have talked to me And the middle parcel is a common community space. The concept of an Itasca community green, I'm all in favor of in the middle parcels. The sustainability piece I spoke on. But the biggest thing in the misnomer a little bit is I kept, the housing is just such a charged word, obviously. Parcels on the outskirts, not the middle parcels, and we can define what the outskirts are, whether it's Water Street, whether it's parcel A, parcel C, where the parking for the summer camp is right now. Those are assets. Those are assets that this HRA organization has and has the ability to do the Nantasket Community Green or whatever we're going to call it, do it right. I said that word last time, and Dan asked me what did he mean by right. It really meant doing it so that we're not going to have to. We need to be fiscally responsible. The town shouldn't cost the town a dime today, tomorrow, or in the future. It should be sustained in perpetuity, and that's the belief that I have after talking to people. That's what I ran on. That's what I want to represent. But my takeaway is I just hope people will not try to, poo-poo everything that everybody else says if they're not in the camp. Just we need to listen. We're a lot closer than we think. And the last takeaway is I hope that you'd want me to formally invite Karen to the next meeting because I think she can be a great resource for us as we move forward. And I want to move forward. The last thing I'll say is when I think of the urban renewal plan 10 years ago or whatever, and the ECR, I've been here almost a year on the board, and we still are trying to find out when we're going to have a meeting. So we need to focus on the HRA. We need to focus on moving forward, and others will hopefully follow as opposed to wait to see what everyone else does. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Charlie. Mark, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Barley. And I don't want to short circuit continuation of this discussion among HRA members and members of the public. I just wanted to interject that following this discussion, if HRA wanted me to take a crack at drafting very broadly a scope related to an RFP, and then that would provide a document that HRA members could respond to, and it could be amended and edited sort of appropriately. But I think that might help identifying where there is consensus and agreement and where there are issues that need to be sorted out and voted on. So just something to think about once the discussion is finished, whether it's helpful for the next meeting or some future meeting to have a draft scope, very broad, that would be the basis for an RFP. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Dan Kernan, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not muted. No. I just wanted to thank Charlie for suggesting that we invite the Wildland Trust. I think it's a great idea. And his optimism, I share it with you that we are closer than people think. And then, but, the devil's in a little bit of the details. So when you're looking at the assets, parcel A and parcel C, and there's some other spots, maybe the end of Bay Street, or maybe next to the light plant. Our potential, what you're referring to as assets when you're talking about the periphery. If I'm speaking wrong, please don't just interrupt, because I'm speaking for you a little bit. If that's okay. My catch on this is that even treated as an asset, to assume that it has to be housing because that's where you get the absolute most money. I still think that we should hold back. Even if we were to go there, I'm not there. I don't believe they're assets, but in order to get there, an asset doesn't have to be housing. An asset could be something else. I don't know what it could be. I know that number one thing they didn't want was housing, but the number two was any sort of large commercial thing. But perhaps a commercial thing might be more valuable to the town than housing. So when we get to the point where I'm more in line with Joan and Anne in the sense that when we get to the point where we have a design, we see the best part of that design, and we can't afford to achieve that without treating part of the property as an asset. And I don't think it's wrong to not identify that and kind of prioritize so that the designers know which areas are the best to choose as an asset. I'm not opposed to that, but I'm kind of opposed. Yeah, I'm totally opposed to the idea that we're saying the asset is going to be housing. I don't like that idea at all. And I hope that we don't need the asset because it's such a wonderful idea that, magic is going to come and all the money's going to flow in. And I'm, perhaps optimistic, but anyhow, I figured I'd share that.
Thank you, Dan. Go ahead. Ann, go ahead. Get your hand up.
Just to, before we get away from it, and then I do hope you'll go to the public. Yes, I'm in favor of having Karen Gray come in. I've been advocating for that for the last year. I think it would behoove us to, again, hear what are the possibilities for possible funding and whatnot. And I do know from the one thing I attended that she spoke at is there are things out there. So I think she could help with that respect. And I'm more than happy to have her come in the next meeting, Charlie. That would be great. And as far as Mark, start to draft RFP, I'm definitely on board with that too. I think that makes a lot of sense to at least have, a skeleton of something on paper to work from. So I would like to see that done, and I'd like to have the other members, let's decide right now on those two things and then go forward with the discussion.
Thank you, Ann. All right, so I agree. I think we should bring Karen Gray in to our next meeting. I think that there's general consensus there. I think, Charlie, if you can reach out to her, I think you heard from everybody that we'd like to hear from her and what the potential funding sources are. As far as Mark going forward with drafting a preliminary RFP for a design, I have no problem with that. But I would like to say something that, I agree with Charlie that the HRA is an asset to the town. All of it is an asset to the town, whether it's park space, whether it's development space, whether it's housing, or whether it's commercial. And so I've been on the board a long time and I've been doing this a long time. And one of the things that I've seen happen time and time again is we suffer from analysis paralysis. And we've got disagreements between board members, and we've go back and forth, and we've gone around in circles for the last 3 years talking about direction. Even though some of the directions were already mapped out, and like Ann said, it was 2016, the two-way roads. It was actually 2018 where it was brought to town meeting, and the two-way road work never stopped. It continued. The only thing that slowed it down was the response from the DCR, or the lack thereof. And then in the meantime, they got resiliency money, and they come out with a 60,000 foot view of resiliency and decided Nantasket Beach was going to be their experiment, and come up with a plan and laid out a plan for resiliency along Nantasket Beach that would effectively block the view of the beach from Atlantic Hill all the way to Fifth Street when you were driving by, if they were to do what they're proposing to do. I don't think anybody realizes what their proposal is. And you talk about eliminating parking, they'd be eliminating parking the whole way along the entire beach. So if we're sitting here arguing about providing parking while the DCR that controls the lion's share of Nantasket Beach is willing to eliminate all the parking as part of an experiment for resiliency on Nantasket Beach, and we're going to be the first town to do it, to me, I think they're putting the cart before the horse. They should be coming to the town and talking about what they want to do. We've got plans on the table. We've got funding on the table, to the tune of $1.4 million for design that would do the infrastructure work along Hull Shore Drive Extension, and Nantasket Ave. And that infrastructure work, if DCR were to get into the program, it could implement some of those resiliency strategies into the plan. And we could get down to brass tacks about if the HRA would be asked to give up some land to shift the road towards the bay to create that buffer zone along the wall. But I think as we're doing that, we should continue to move forward because the HRA is a major asset for town. We're looking at major capital improvement costs coming down the pike with a public safety building that could be 60, $80 million that the taxpayers will be paying for. They don't have a site for it. And potential DPW building. And I think we're all taxpayers here and we're all residents here and we all care about the town. We may disagree on what we think is right for the town, but I think the Fifth Street end of the lot is the residential end of Hull. If you were going to have housing, put the residences where the residential end is. And the Water Street lot is the commercial end of Hull. If you're going to have commercial, you put the commercial where the commercial end of Hull is. Then you look at, then the question is, how much of it? How much of it is enough? And at the commercial end of Hull, would you want to put it on the Water Street lot between Nantasket and Hull Shore Drive? Or would you want to shift parking so you kept that view corridor out and put it on the corner of Bay Street? Or do you want to look at the corner of Bay Street, as Dan suggested, and the corner of Whitehead Ave, and, maybe Fifth Street? We have options, but I think we as a board have to determine what the options are, what options are potential to be in play, not just to say that they are definitely in play, but we've got a responsibility to provide some tax revenue, provide some stability, and provide the neighborhood with stability. That's 13 acres of land. You're going to make a 13-acre park in the middle while the DCR eliminates all its parking and we're going to provide the parking? To me, that doesn't help the town. I'm here to help the whole town going forward for the next 50, 75 years. And they talk about resiliency along Nantasket Beach. Nantasket Beach is at the same flood level from Atlantic Hill all the way to Allerton Hill. And this is the area that they're going to put up, a dune that's going to be 15, 20 feet high and eliminate the beach parking. But the HRA should hold its breath and wait for it to happen. I've seen what they did with their master plan before. They reinforced the seawall, and the rest of it was maintenance. That's my 2 cents, but I'm happy to go forward with Mark drafting a preliminary RFP for design standards and happy to move forward with Karen Gray coming to the HRA. But I think we have to be realistic.
Can we ask about Joan and Charlie and their stance on it?
I'm sorry, what did you say? I missed it.
I was suggesting that we hear from you and Charlie as far as how you feel about having Karen Gray come forward, and Charlie already sort of indicated he's interested in also the drafting of a RFP.
I think people heard me say that I concurred with Mark about the RFP and the scope of services. Karen, for Wildlife Trust, I'd be interested in hearing what funding sources, but I'll restate my position. I do not want to put the land under the Wildlife Trust. I would like to have the town form a Nantasket land trust for our HRA land, and very similar to that article in Newburyport. They have control of the trust. They have a board, trustee board, and hopefully they raise money. But I do disagree. I don't want to be 15 years in building this public park. I don't want to continue. I'm hoping and wishing that, the HRA will be dissolved within 15 years. So basically, Ann, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ann, I'm a yes as well. And Joan, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how informative, at least what I took away from what Karen was able to say. Like most things, when you go to the source, you get a much different, you get the exact verbiage. And she will provide that. And I was so happy that she was excited because she's done a lot of legwork, I guess, over the last few years. I think she knows the place pretty darn well. And I think she'll be an asset. And yes, Mark, thanks for advocating to put an RFP in its beginning stages.
Mm-hmm. And Karen she did come to our meeting. I know Dan's had conversation, former board member Adrian had conversations with her. A lot of people have met with her. Dennis met with her. So, a lot of people have met individually with her.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest, if we get to the big question everybody answered, do we want something to get done? I don't, people who are
Yeah.
talking about the surveys, the first takeaway that market research said the number one thing was people want to get something done. And that was certainly heard loud and clear as well.
Dan, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's been a long time since she was here, and most of the details I forgot. I just know that one of the things that they services that they provided was one, kind of planning to help you scope it out. I think that they don't really get involved in the middle of the development, but I don't know how they accomplished a great big thing in Brockton. We got a Zoom user here talking.
Bartley, you're the host, so you can mute.
All right, there, I'm muted. So anyway, I would really like to have her come back because I really don't specifically remember all of the things that they told us that they did. And even if we don't choose them to their trust to be able to support it and maintain it in perpetuity, which is something that they do, which is a huge cost. It'd be nice to just understand, what they do and what that might cost if we don't partner with some outfit that essentially fundraises and already manages a land trust. So anyhow, I'm looking forward to them coming.
Thanks, Dan. Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Bartley. And just to be crystal clear, I'm taking extensive notes on what all of the HRA members are saying. So in terms of my role in drafting a scope for HRA members to discuss and edit and revise, it's reflecting all of the views expressed in the discussion, so that it's not it's not promoting like one particular sort of approach, but sort of identifying where there are areas of consensus and then where there are areas that need to be sorted out. And then the other thing that I would mention in terms of inviting Karen is, if in the interest of efficiency, I think it's probably not a good idea for her to do the overall introduction to what Wildlands Trust is, because she presented last year. It's on meeting recordings. We can identify the date of those recordings. So anyone who wants to review that presentation, just talking about what Wildland Trust is, can become familiar with it. I think HRA should have specific questions for Karen for this upcoming meeting in advance, so that her preparation is oriented to funding mechanisms, different types of strategies, et cetera, rather than there doesn't need to be like a general introduction to Wildlands Trust. I think, having it be a more targeted presentation would be a more valuable use of HRA meeting time. So that's just my perspective.
Makes sense. All right. No other comments from board members. I'm going to go to the public. Dan Sullivan's had his hand up for a long time, so I'm going to let him speak. Dan, go ahead. You're on mute, if you can hear me.
Okay, there we go. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can. Thanks, Dan.
All right. I've heard so much about the survey, and I have to tell you, I think it was the most prejudicial survey I've ever done in my life. I think that the survey was skewed towards making sure that everybody wanted open land. And I resented the fact that so many of the questions did not have the opportunity for a no answer. The only closest you could get to saying no was not sure. That's not an accurate survey. And it also shouted out to me that this survey was created by some very knowledgeable people. And by asking the same question in different ways over many pages, it always looks like it's a different question. But no, in the end, the way they analyze these surveys, it comes back to saying, well, they answered this part on page 2 and this part on page 6, and that means they really mean X. So I really thought that was a horrible, horrible survey, and I do not want decisions made about the HRA land based on that survey. It is not an accurate assessment. I'm sorry. Secondly, I do want some development on that land. That entire parcel, every parcel you have divided, but the entire scope of the whole part of the land was a neighborhood. And it got torn away. I know one person specifically whose home was torn away, and nothing has been replaced. And that's wrong. We need housing, and most especially, we need affordable housing in this town. And if we use those lots appropriately, we can not only get good housing. I'm not talking about the monstrous stuff that's going up now in the development area. I'm talking about good, zoned, single family, low profile housing. It can be done. And to say, as one of the members has been saying repeatedly tonight, that you can't give a designer a specific parcel and ask him to make plans for that specific parcel. That's the way every house in the world is built. You have a 4,000 square foot lot, you have a 6,000 square foot lot. No matter what it is, you give them that dimension and you say, okay, build something. To say that you can't designate certain parcels for development is wrong. Of course you can. And that's really the 2 or 3 things I really wanted to say the most. I mean, we could go back to the 2014 town meeting where we approved an entire scope of plan for that parcel, every parcel, including open space, and 4 or 5 people created no way HRA and ground the whole thing to death. And I don't want to go through that again. We need housing, we need affordable housing, and that survey, do not talk about how great that survey was. It was a totally biased, awful survey. Thank you.
Bartley,
Thank you, Dan.
Bartley.
Yep.
May I just respond to a couple of points he made? Dan, I don't know if you were at, I think it was the last meeting or the one before it, where it was talked about the people who had their houses taken. And I think it was Dan had mentioned he had talked to some of those people whose families had their house taken. And they indicated to him they would be very upset if suddenly housing was put back there that they now couldn't afford. So, there's 2 edges to every sword. And as far as the survey, I gotta tell you, I'm for open space, and I thought the exact opposite. I really thought the survey was prejudicial towards building. It was weirdly worded, I grant you, but it was put out by 2 members who sat down and went to the company. The company is a well-respected company. And, I answered the questions really not knowing if it was going to end up coming out the way I had hoped it would. So you can say it's swayed one way or the other, but I heard a lot of people say the exact opposite. I just think that's interesting. And as far as my comment, as far as if you're talking about me, yes, certainly we can go to a design firm and say, well, design this on parcel A. I don't happen to believe that's the best approach. I think you should look at the land holistically as the overall property and figure out the best flow for that whole property, not individual parcels. So yes, I don't disagree that you can certainly tell a design firm, put housing on parcel A, but I just don't think that's the process we should follow. And I hope that clarifies if my comments were the ones you were referring to. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Dan, go ahead.
Are you talking about to me?
No, sorry, Dan. No, Dan Kernan.
All right, I'm all done.
The other Dan with his hand up. So, but this is in response to Dan Sullivan. Yeah, I had the same experience. I took the survey. I thought about it a lot, and it seemed like my perspective was not a choice. And I looked at it, and I didn't feel like Bart's perspective was either. And I just didn't know how to complain about something where, the two inns were not included. But it was pretty clear that there were no questions that were really worded to see if people wanted to kind of maximize the asset as a development. And it didn't seem like there was anything there where it was like just preserve the entire space to maximize um, a a beachfront park. It didn't seem like that was in the survey. That would you like to have a safe, large beachfront park in the town of Hull? That wasn't an option. So Bart's original URP wasn't acknowledged, and what I'd been proposing and hoping the town would like didn't seem to be there. So I think we neutralized each other, and it came up with what it came up with. Also, I just want to say that your idea of affordable housing it isn't one of the things that was discussed here. And when we're pushing back, or I personally have been pushing back on housing, and having talked to several of the people who lost their homes, I never discussed with them that maybe they would like to see the property have, if there is housing on it, it being all affordable. The plan here is large, maximum value homes. They're to maximize revenue. The proposal that is here is to figure out how to maximize profit for the public space so we can do the best amount of community development by generating the maximum amount of value out of the property that we do develop. And it hasn't been discussed that we would develop all of the property as public good, every square inch being maximized or optimized for the public, which I don't believe housing would be, but it's not where the people pushing for housing are going. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I'd just like to respond to Dan Sullivan's comments. I happen to agree with Dan. I've talked to a lot of people about the survey, and I actually know of family members and friends that started to take the survey, and they stopped taking it because it was too ambiguous for them. And I speak to a lot of people, and I know the survey, the overwhelming majority of people that took the survey want open space. I think everybody wants open space, and I want open space. The question is, as a redevelopment authority, how do we accomplish that goal, bring a compromise, and get some of the things that we need to get? I think Dan's comment about affordable housing is on point. Town's in dire need of affordable housing. I think the fact that it's an asset of the town that Charlie said is on point. It is an asset. It's the redevelopment authority's asset. The whole redevelopment authority is here for the town. And I think we have to find that compromise that does both, provides the seaside park that has the space for people to do, and provides some return for the town, and provides some funds to create some affordable housing, whether it be on that parcel or whether it's providing funds to add a building at McTighe Manor where there's room for another building. I think, and providing tax revenue and more people. So I think, I mean, we're all over the place there, and it's up to this board to kind of make a decision. But Dan's one of the few people that have come to an HRA meeting and expressed what I hear all the time on the street. And I've heard from people that had houses down there that they're absolutely on the other side, that they believe something should be done down there. So I think it's like the town in general and the world in general, it's pretty evenly split on direction. It's how do we find that compromise? So I think hopefully moving forward, going forward, we can find that compromise and we can come to it. but let's get the public comment in. I just wanted to respond because Ann and Dan did. I don't know if Charlie or Joan had any comments, but if they don't have their hand up, I'm going to go to the public. Susan Mann, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, thank you, Susan Mann, Manaman Avenue. A couple of things. I was wondering if you could secure the high school for when Karen Gray comes to speak. I think there'll probably be a lot of people from the public who would also enjoy listening to her. And so I'm wondering if we could use the high school for the next meeting, assuming she can come to the next meeting. Number two is I agree with Mark that at this point, probably the most important thing is to design the RFP and to keep it broad enough so that we have a lot of choices in the end. The other thing I just wanted to say, and I think some people may know this, but I have become a member of a new group called the Neotasket Community Green. We did make an announcement in the Hull Times, and we also have been on Facebook. We are currently in the process of organizing as a 501c3 with our main objective to do fundraising to support a park on the HRA. So I just wanted to say that. I don't know if people have questions about that, but we will have more information as we get further along in the process. So there will be a local 501c3 in Hull dedicated specifically to fundraise for a park at the HRA. And that's it.
Thank you, Susan. I wish you the best of luck with that.
Thank you.
Cindy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, and Cindy Borges, Nantasket Avenue. Is there a reason why you're using the urban, or who, I don't know who's using this old urban renewal plan? Like, do you not use when you look for your urban renewal plan, do you use the one from 2021 normally?
I was just grabbing maps.
Okay, well, wouldn't you grab them off the most recent one?
I grabbed them off of what was available, but is there a comment?
I just was curious why you were using an older version. Yeah, I do have comments. So my vision originally has always been that there should be parking on both ends of whatever goes there because they're buffers, but also as community, parking for the community and parking for businesses, then to have charge for parking. This should all be, this is the stuff that an RFP plan could be working out, but we don't really actually know any of the revenue that gets generated by the parking. Like, I guess you guys do, but do you factor that in instead of thinking of what you're going to get from housing revenue, how much money you could get forever on parking? If you're getting like $40 a spot times how many spots, you should have, I would expect that would be considered in whatever plan somebody comes up with, that you would know the amount of, just like I'm sure you have housing costs. If you want to build this type of a building, it's this much per square foot. If it's, in flood, it's that much more per square foot. Generally, you shout out those numbers all the time. So we don't really need anybody to get an RFP and get any kind of specific numbers. I don't think we have all the information that we need in order, if you wanted to throw housing on one parcel or another. What we really need and what we really want is to have a plan that comes up with the use of the entire space as open space or what other community based commercial space, whatever, like Dan was saying, lower scale, something for people to use with whatever ends up to go there. There's so much that could be offered. To go straight to housing again and again and again is upsetting. And then, yeah, it's upsetting to hear Charlie talk about how he was elected. He was elected by the majority, by the smallest amount. And at the recount, There was many more that would have voted for the other candidate and he would have lost. So
Cindy,
he says, I'm
Cindy,
going to speak
excuse
for
me.
this.
Excuse me.
Well, please stop saying that you guys
We're
were
not-
elected.
If you have comments about the subject at hand, stick to the comments to the subject at hand.
Okay, I just wish that they would stop saying, that they were elected they have to represent their people, because it's really the minority, if you're asking me.
Oh.
And then, Plan C was supposed to be talked about for the last 3 years, and we're nowhere near it because you want to continue with putting housing on it. We need the open space plan of a completely open thing. And why that's not allowed, or even allowed to be considered, and people want to move forward with something, in a comment to Joan, she doesn't want to wait 15 years. The urban renewal plan is a 10-year plan once it's implemented. So it's going to be 15 years, no matter what. Let's make it something good. This isn't going to be a rush, in a minute. What we can do for now, what people want to see is something done. They want to see something done that's nice to the land, so it doesn't look like nobody cares about it and it's a big parking lot. So that would be great to get like a RFP, but the RFP should not include, or there should be at least one scenario that does not include housing and has some alternate things based on what the community asks for and what's possible. Like Dan says, these other centers, and there are a lot of opportunities for other things. We need to keep an open mind at this point. There is no reason to be selling out at this point after 60 years. Okay. And as far as there's a beach management planning committee. Is the HRA represented there since they own a parcel?
No.
So how do you keep aware of what is? Okay, never mind. So nobody, you don't consider yourself a partner in that or a stakeholder?
We're a stakeholder.
So has the committee never reached out to you guys?
Not that I know, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, just curious, because I thought that it would be a collaborative effort. Let me just make sure. Oh yes, and tonight was the Agent Orange memorial service tonight for the veterans that suffered from the effects from that. And there's about, I don't know, actually, because I missed it, but I know last year I was there, probably 200 people. I came home at the end of it. There was still a lot of people. That should be taken into consideration. I didn't know if the War Memorial Commission has ever been asked about what they would like to see on the HRA property on that end. Because before, way back when Chris was talking about it, was going to be some big old park over there. And so I just didn't know if they have contributed, and would suggest, if they haven't, that you might want to contact them and get some type of feedback before you put something where they can't hold any events at this enormous monument that's in the center of our town to honor our veterans. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Gene, you've got your hand up. Go ahead. You're on mute, Gene. All right, I'm going to go to Susan Mann. Susan, go ahead.
Okay, hello. I just wanted to respond to Cindy. Cindy, I'm the chair of the Beach Management Advisory Committee in town. And I just wanted to say that we are an advisory committee to the select board. And we advise them on matters on North Nantasket Beach, which actually starts at Phipps Street and runs to XYZ Street. So typically the HRA is not involved in our meetings, and they don't have a person who attends our meetings. I don't know if that helps you, or if you had specific questions, or whether your question is more about the beach parcel on the beach, the DCR beach, which we don't have anything to do with. We don't have anything to do with that beach parcel. So I don't know if that helps, Cindy, but if you have any more questions, feel free to just be in touch with me.
Sure, I will. I just
Thank you.
where that they own a beach parcel.
Thank you.
I just found that interesting that nobody's contacted them.
Okay.
Thank you. Mark Hammond, you got your hand up.
Thank you, Bartley. I just want to say for the benefit of members of the public that the survey was developed out of a solicitation of services that was developed and discussed and approved by HRA. The goal was that the consulting firm would have to work very closely with the HRA in terms of developing the survey. There was a subcommittee consisting of Charlie Richardson and Adrian Paquin, two members of HRA and myself, to work very closely with Market Street Research. The survey questionnaire was presented to the entire HRA membership, was discussed, reviewed, and approved. There was opportunity during the survey for uh, people to indicate any sort of issues that they were having with the survey. So let me just be clear. Market Street Research won out of a competitive process. It's got a sterling reputation in terms of its methodology. It's designed precisely to avoid bias in the survey questions. And so the fact that some people think it was biased toward open space and some people thought it was biased towards development is indicative of the bias of the people who were taking the survey and not the bias of the survey designers. And what I had indicated to everyone who expressed a point of view or frustration with the survey is HRA has regular meetings, has an email platform for people to communicate whatever their preferences are. So if people felt that their views were not represented in the survey, it was not because of the survey design, and it was not because the survey did or did not work. It's because people made choices about what they wanted to do and how they wanted to express themselves. So there's ample opportunity for the public to participate in this process. And I'm just saying that to clarify the record of anyone who thinks that there was something skewed or biased in the process itself. It was done in a very rigorous sort of way with a top quality survey firm with HRA control throughout the entire process. So I just want to state that for the record so people really understand. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, just only because someone who just spoke used my name. I just wanted to at least clarify a couple of things just real quickly. In terms of I was elected, that's not subjective. But regardless of how you want to use the semantics, the reality is that over 800 people, in fact, more people voted for me than actually filled out the survey in favor of open space. So just the end of the day, I just wish people would be willing to at least understand that there is a split, which is why there's a split of our own board. We make up the town in a lot of ways, and we need to be able to listen to both sides and come to a compromise because it's not a zero-sum game. It's not all housing. It's not all development. It's not all open space. If we're going to get this thing done, we need to work together because the town is split on what should be done there. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlie. Jean has her hand up. I'm going to give her one last chance unless she's left the meeting.
Jean also put her comment in the chat.
All right. What was the comment in the chat?
I can read it. Jean said, surveying is a science, and for any of us who are not survey professionals to denigrate the results because we don't agree with the results is not helpful.
All right. Thank you for the input, Gene. All right. I think we've beat this horse enough tonight. We got new business next up. Any new business from board members?
Bartley,
Go ahead.
before I forget, I just wanted to mention that the next HRA cleanup on the Bay side I'm planning to schedule for 9:30 a.m. on Saturday, August 22nd. And, I'll be getting information out on Facebook probably after this weekend. Let's focus on the 250th celebrations and then I'll get information out. But mark your calendars, August 22nd, and I think I'll make the rain date would be August 29th and just keep it on Saturdays.
Any other members with new business? All right, I've got one thing on the new business. I know we talked about it in the past, and the impetus came about with the 250th celebration on the Hull Shore Common piece. They were looking at a temporary electrical service, and at the time when they were talking about it,
Thank you. I didn't see that.
somebody got an open mic, please close it. When they were looking at a temporary service for this event, I did contact the electrician and said, can you give us a price on a permanent service down there, a 200 amp service that would provide power for that Hull Shore Common and the adjacent area on the main lot. They did give me a price. I think it's something that we should get 3 prices on. I've got a kind of a scope of what they were going to do. So I'd like to, I know we had talked about it before, so I'd like to bring that back to the board in the future, in the next month or so. So we do have a power connection down there for any types of events that we may use in the future. This particular event, the 250th event, is going to be a temporary service for it. But I just wanted to bring that back to the board. I know it was talked about in the past. Mark Hammond, you've got your hand up.
Thanks, Harley. I just wanted to bring this up. I don't know whether there's an agenda item under correspondence, but it's a message that's gone to the admin email address twice regarding parking on Lot A encroaching onto Samoset Avenue. So I don't know whether anyone on HRA is in a position to evaluate.
I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about it. I actually called the parking lot operator today and made him aware of it. Said we've had 2 complaints about the cars hanging over the sidewalk. He acknowledged that it did happen. I said it can't happen, and so it'll be an issue going forward. If he does it again, we're going to have the cars towed. So,
thank you.
All right, Dan Kernan, you got your hand up. New business.
I was just so the 200 amp, where on the lot is that going? Is that closer to the whole shore extension, or is it on the other side? Where was that? Or is it going near the green box?
Near the green box. It would be centrally located, I think, so we could service the Hull Shore Common parcel, which is towards the hotel on that side of the post and rail fence. But you could also service the main lot as well. If we do it right, it'll be able to service both sides of that fence.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Is there anything we should be thinking about so this will come, we'll discuss this at the next meeting?
I'm going to try to get a couple more prices based on the price that I got with the specifications on the price that I got. So we can have 3 prices and then we can go from there. It basically gives us about 100 feet of running room with an underground.
So it's under the point where, so it's in that price range where we can have 3 ideas and then just vote and move. Oh, wow. That's nice. Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. All right. Any other board members with new business? All right. Anything under old business from board members? All right. Our next meeting, we've got Karen Gray from Wildlands Trust on the agenda, and we'll have a preliminary RFP that Mark Hammond will be working on, and we'll continue our discussion. If there's any other things that board members think we need to get on the agenda, please reach out, and I'll try to make sure they're on the agenda.
Bartley, it's
Yep.
Ann. I do think it would be a good idea to see if the exhibition room at the high school is available.
I will reach out and try to find out. We'll try to find out the next day or so, and then I'll reach out to the board, and then I'll try to get the agenda together, because that's 2 weeks away. All right. Get it out there. All right, there's no other old business or new business from the board. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Bart,
Yes?
it's Jean.
Gene, what's up? You had an opportunity to speak earlier and you didn't speak up.
I
don't want to
know,
get back into I don't want to get back into public comment at the end of the meeting.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I did reach out to you twice during the
I know
meeting.
I was having a technical difficulty. I apologize very
No.
much.
All right, if you want to send me something, I can certainly respond, but I don't want to open up the floor to debate at this late hour after we just got through everything.
No worries.
All right, thank you.
Bart, is the next meeting August 31st?
The next meeting is August 31st. It's an in-person meeting, and we're trying to get the high school exhibition room. If we don't get it there, it'll be in the select board meeting room.
And I believe it's supposed to be at 7:30.
7:30, yep. All right. It being 9:21, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Seconded by Joan Senator. All those in favor by roll call vote. Aye, Bartley Kelly.
Aye, Dan Kernan.
Aye, Joan Senator.
Hi, Charlie Richardson.
Hi, Anne Murray.
All right, unanimous. Thank you, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank
I'll reach out.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.